What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Grind in Esports podcast show. My name is Jacob, also known as Basket of Knives, and today joining me is Eain, also known as Always Plan Ahead or APA. He's a mid laner for Maryville University and here to kind of talk about some of the journey that he's been on and where they're going, and to give a nice good primer for their quarterfinal matchup for CLoL 2022 versus Winthrop University, coming at you June 9th. Eain, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. Doing good so far. Just playing a bunch of solo queue today. Watching some of the
Awesome,
Amazon matches. Having fun.
awesome. What'd you think of some of the stuff on MSI today?
Um, I'm surprised at how well GT was playing overall compared to like the Eastern teams, RNG and SKT, or ST1 now. I
Mhm.
was like surprised that they're doing handily fine against them.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people, anticipated that was, kind of pretty top heavy of like the top three teams being G2, RNG, T1 in no particular order. But I definitely agree. It seems like, if anything, it just seems like they're taking the game much more seriously than the other two teams are. It's I for one am kind of still blown my mind blown of why T1 didn't send their jungler to claim Dragon Soul and just said,
Yeah, the
nah,
fourth
just
dragon.
recall and go top lane
Yeah,
for. But
we
hey,
were actually talking about that earlier today. Instant we saw them sieging mid lane. Me and a few other players said that T1's trolling and that they're gonna lose the dragon to the way.
yep, yeah, and they ultimately did. And for me, I'm an 80 carry player, and I'm just going like, when Danny tried to save Vulcan when he had like 2% mana and there was four on map, I'm just going, please no, not like this, not like this.
Yep.
But yeah, MSI's been a roller coaster as it kind of always is. NA at least seems to be doing well up against the PCS and the VCS. So it's like that's
Yep.
always good to see. We'll if we make it to quarters, then we at least or semis, we at least get our first seed back for Worlds. So that's always good. So yeah, so what I want to do here to start is just kind of talk a little bit about kind of where you're from, a little bit of your background, and kind of just see where you know kind of see what your journey was like from kind of from point A of your hometown all the way to now to Maryville. So, you know, where was it that you grew up? Kind of like what was your origin coming into Maryville?
Yeah. So I grew up, born and raised in a small town in Ohio called Howland, and played sports pretty much throughout, like pretty much since I was like 4 or 5, like wrestling, football, track, basketball, like whole plethora of sports. Into um in my off time, like during the summer or whatever, after school, I would always play games with my older brother, and it would just be like random, uh, like online games, like on any of the random sites. Um, and then probably when I was like 12ish, or actually a lot younger, I think I was, yeah, actually around 12 is when he got me into League, and I had pretty high ranked fast. Like first season I'm platinum, next season I'm diamond, and my second season playing League, I was able to get challenger, like season 7ish roughly, and yeah.
Dang, pretty fast climb there. I've been playing since what season 2, and I haven't hit past diamond, but hey, like that happens. But interestingly enough, I also was introduced to League by courtesy of my elder sibling as well. He got me into the
Hmm.
game and just said, "Hey, dude, try this thing out. It's really fun."
Yeah, we would
I had
always.
never played a MOBA in my life at that point, and first game did not go well because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. But
Yeah.
that's awesome though. So I'm actually from Ohio as well. I'm originally from the Cleveland area, and
Oh wow,
I
really?
reside in
I'm like an
Columbus.
hour from
So
Cleveland.
yeah. What?
I'm like an hour away, like an hour
Yeah,
south of Cleveland actually.
yeah.
So I'm actually pretty close.
Awesome. Yeah. So what? So you got yourself into league. You got yourself pretty high up there. You got yourself into challenger into your second season. So how'd you end up at Maryville?
Um, So from like season 8 to season 10, it's like a little bit of backstory. I was like an ASO player, and I'm like hitting decently high ranked in Challenger, like top 50 roughly. And I decided that season 10, which was about a little over 2 years ago now, that I wanted to go pro. So I joined a team called Supernova. And evidently, the team with Supernova had Odd Orange, Evan RL, and a few other players. And two of those players are currently at Maryville. And we're currently at Maryville. And I played a year of amateur in 2021 as well. Nothing really came of it. So I decided to message Clerky and message my previous teammates from Supernova to try and get me into Maryville. And then, yeah, I'm here.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, what was it like transitioning throughout some of those phases? So, like, having played, you know, top tier solo queue player, having played, for Supernova for some amateur teams, and then now going into the collegiate structure. What were some of those transitions like for you?
Um, when the start, obviously, it was just like expanding myself as a player because I was like an ace of one trick. So I get much better at other champions for sure. But just becoming like a better team and all that. And then going from like amateur to collegiate, probably the biggest difference is like being in person with my teammates. So it's a lot easier to build team camaraderie when you're in person. I can look to my left, look to my right, and like talk to the player in person.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely agree. It also, you know, I feel like we all can speak from experience of like you're much less likely to flame the person when you're sitting in the same room as them if they mess up versus like just over cons being like, dang it, dude, like you messed up on this, but it's like when they're sitting right next to you, it's like, nope, nope, not
I mean,
not 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 gonna
it's a
say
lot
it.
less blame. It's more just um constructive criticism. Like
Hmm.
I'll look to my left and I'll tell Odd Orange like, hey, you're doing this thing wrong. Like we
Hmm.
could and we could talk about it about like how to do this thing better, or like things like that.
Yeah, the ability to have more constructive conversations and like good dialogue and feedback is much more conducive in the
Oh yeah,
IRL
for sure.
environment versus just like over discords or TeamSpeak or things of that nature. So that's really
Yep.
awesome. So so you said you were an ASOL one trick. So I'm gonna assume I know who kind of like if you had an inspiration, like who it was, but if it wasn't who he, what was like, who was like the player that you kind of looked up to? Who was like kind of your league inspiration, if you will, kind of getting up there and wanting to pursue this?
Um, wasn't really anyone I won't lie. I think it was the champion came out like season 6 or around there roughly, and he just looked really fun. I just played a few games with him, and I really enjoyed him, and I kept winning on him in ranked, so I just kept playing him. Like there wasn't a true inspiration. It was just I enjoyed playing the character.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, so what was the what was the most difficult champion for you to kind of start to master? You mentioned that you were, obviously being an ASOL one trick and like having to expand out that pool. What were some of the easier ones to learn, and what were some of the ones where you started to run into some challenges with trying to learn the ins and outs of?
I mean, there's always like easy champions like Galio or Twisted Fate for are probably one of the easier champions that you could play in the mid lane. And then as I've expanded, like champs like Aurelia or LeBlanc or Akali are like a lot harder than them, but I don't think league champions in general are like too hard mechanically to be able to play. It's just
Mhm.
knowing the limits of those champions rather.
Yeah, definitely can agree, especially with like when they rework champions like Aurelia and Akali from like their original forms to the modern forms now. Definitely much more dynamic champions with
Mhm.
a lot more mechanics involved with them. So you guys obviously have your matchup coming up in June, going into LA. But one thing I kind of want to like shoot for here is shoot a little bit past that. We're going to come back to it. What what is it that your kind of goal is like? Both like within collegiate and then like after collegiate for you. Like what are your aspirations going forward?
Um, I've not really thought too far in the future. Obviously, the most recent goal is just to win collegiate as a whole, and then we're gonna be playing in the next Proving Grounds tournament. So do well in the next Proving Ground tournament is probably the next two like most recent goals that I've like planned out for myself. Other than that, I've not like thought too deeply into the future.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Any thoughts on like wanting to like get onto an academy squad or like thoughts of like wanting to play in like the LCS or in a like any sort of like a major region?
Yeah, I definitely wanna. The goal is, or I guess I could say another goal is to make LCS one day. Obviously, that's a like aspiration of mine,
Mhm.
but that's a lot harder to do and more so out of my control than something like winning CLoL or doing my own proving grounds.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. So stepping away from League here for a few minutes, what are some of the other things that that you've enjoyed doing outside the game? What are some of the fun things that you enjoy doing, in St. Louis, in Maryville? What are some of the fun things you've enjoyed doing back home in your hometown in Ohio?
Um, well, St. Louis is kind of a bad city. I won't lie. Like everything closes pretty early on, and then there's not a whole lot to do. But in my free time, generally just hanging out with other members of the team. Like after this, I'll probably make dinner with a kind jungle later on today. And other than that, it's like we play board games pretty often, or we'll just hang out and watch some of the MSI games. What we've been doing recently.
Awesome. What's like your go-to, like what's your go-to college meal? What's the standard for you there?
Um, it's pretty high. Like yesterday, we made a whole bunch of chicken tenders because we had chicken breast. We had chicken tenders, barbecue sauce, all that. Like today, I was gonna make some pasta. Tomorrow, I'll probably make like steak or something. Like I think if we're looking for like a standard meal, it's probably just a frozen pizza. Like super tired, like the energy to cook a meal.
Hmm.
It's like you're just chucking a pizza.
Yep. Definitely gives me the, very similar vibes back when I was in college and whatnot. It's like, yeah, it's like the frozen pizza or like the microwave ramen, like
Hmm.
that whole vibe. That's fantastic. So, you know, another thing I want to kind of touch on here is, kind of looking a little bit into some of the takeaways you've had in in college and in the collegiate scene. So like what would be the like what would be the biggest thing that you've learned during your time at Maryville and like being a part of that system that like maybe you wish you knew right away or something that you're really grateful for as a takeaway?
Um, there's nothing insanely massive to point out. Like I think there's a lot of small things. Like since I've just been in person with others, I've done a lot of like good habit building just as a individual, as a person, like throughout my semester here at Maryville. So um yeah, there's nothing big that sticks out. Just like good habit building that I've been working on.
Fantastic. I mean, healthy habits and good habits are always good, and they, you know, anything that's consistency will always provide you, the best opportunity possible and the best avenue for success. So the next thing I want to touch on is, going into what your tips and your tricks are for what you've been playing in solo queue lately. So like what's the current flavor of the month for you? What have you been doing to grind through Masters, Grandmaster, going back up to Challenger? What's your flavor of the month here?
Well, let me check my accounts because I should play a lot of champions.
Well, that's
I
good.
think
Went from the ASOL one trick to having it all. That's fantastic.
uh I haven't been really playing on my main account because the LP
Mhm.
gains and loses are like really rough right now. That's
Gotcha.
really hard to climb. But on my Grandmaster account, like today, I'm been playing like a lot of Aurelia, a lot of Lucian, and other than that, nothing too much flavor much. Just Aurelia right now that I've been
Okay.
playing a lot of.
Awesome. Well, you interested in showing me a little bit of the tips and tricks and the ins and outs of Aurelia for a few minutes?
Sure,
All right.
I can get a practice real
Fantastic.
quick.
I'll go ahead and load up a client and we'll get that going. Let's get to it. All right. So breaking down Aurelia here, we got a couple combos that APA is going to walk us
I
through.
have walked the silver plains
All
and
right,
fished the
so
rivers of
the first
grass.
combo is
The
probably
land knows me.
the 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 most basic combo that I use in team fights. It is you drop your E1, you R flash, Q as you're traveling through the air with your ulti, and then you get the reset on your Q, either target you go onto, and then you have permanently resets on your Q. Yep, something like this, and then you'd have multiple Qs to go through. So you have, if you land all of these abilities, you have 3 Qs to go through it, at least if you don't end up killing the target, and that's more than enough to like slice through your opponent.
Fantastic.
Yep, something similar to that for sure. And now imagine if you're flanking like in a dragon team fight or something. You land that on 3 people, you'll instantly just kill 3 people on a team fight.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, and then you'll win the dragon fight. Yeah.
Awesome. And then the second one that you had for us was our Q and E, basically animation cancel that you had there.
Yep. If you E1 on top of the target that you Q, you can mask the animations to make it incredibly hard for your opponent to dodge out on your E. I don't know if it's animation cancel, but it definitely like it masks it a little bit. And then it's actually a little bit pay to win. So when you have the more fancier skins, like I use Sentinel Aurelia, or like the other like more expensive like later Aurelia skins, the the Q animation is a lot more flashier. So the
Mm.
E is masked even more. It's really funny. It's like pay to win in a sense.
Yeah, I felt the same way with Project Ash's skin. The arrow looks smaller than it actually is,
Yep.
so a lot of people think they
Yep.
can dodge that, but not actually end up with that dodge. But fantastic.
Mhm.
So thanks for showing us those quick Aurelia combos. All right, so last thing I want to touch on is now bringing it back to the present. You guys have been crushing it through CLoL, and here you are, 3 games away from hoisting up that trophy.
Or
And
three
your
series,
first
but yeah,
matchup, what?
3 series away.
3 series away, yes. 3 matches, 3 series away from reaching that trophy. And your first match is against the defending champions from last year and the team that you guys met in the finals last year in Winthrop. So
Mhm.
how are you feeling about that match going into it?
Um, I mean, I'm not worried at all about any of the collegiate teams, if we're being honest. Like, I think Winthrop, if they didn't have to face us, we'd probably face them in finals in another different bracket. But in all regards to the other 7 teams currently in the tournament, we'll run you all.
All right, love that confidence. Love that confidence there. So, what are your thoughts in just like, you know, being at a, big IRL event, going to the LCS studio and being on that stage, being out in Los Angeles, like, being cast on the LCS and the Riot Games streams, like what kind of goes through your mind when like you're thinking about that?
Definitely very excited. I've never played at a like IRL LAN before, so it'll be a first experience for me. I think I'm excited to meet like other friends that I've made along my time, just in person, and then I'm excited to finally play in front of a crowd.
Yeah, that energy from just like having gone to several LCS events and things like that in the past, just being an audience member in those events, it's absolutely unmatched. And so being the one that everyone's cheering for while you're at that event, that's got to be a whole new level of emotions that
Yep.
I can't even comprehend, but that's absolutely fantastic. So, again, having grind through this season and through these years of playing for Maryville, kind of kind of who is or who are some of the teammates that have really stood out to you as like really like kind of like really helping push the innovation or push the expansion and like really being that big source of reliability that you have.
Um, it's hard to point out teammates individual because they all have their own. Like I talk with all of them, about like certain things. I think the biggest one that I've learned from is actually our coach Jensen, where he's implemented a lot of systems for us to utilize during our games, and I've never approached the game in the way that he does. So I definitely have to give the biggest shout out to Jensen for that.
Fantastic. Coach Diff it is, and I'm not gonna dive into like, well, what are what are the systems he's implemented? We're not gonna give away any trade secrets there, but that's awesome, and it's good that you've got yourself a fantastic lineup of staff behind the team, as well as an amazing roster that you can't even point any individual guy out. You're like everybody's great. That is a
Everyone's
fantastic
great.
dynamic to have, and I think that speaks to the quality of you as a player as well as your teammates and the quality that Maryville brings being the collegiate esports giant that they have become over several years of CLoL and all the other collegiate events. So, closing out here, just, you know, anything else that you are excited for, anything else that you want to kind of, say to friends, family, fans, anyone else out there?
Um, Not really. Or I'm definitely very excited for CLoL top 8, but I'm not nervous at all about the tournament. I think we'll wipe the floor with the tournament. I think shoutouts obviously to the team, to Maryville, and then shout out to just friends and family. They've supported me for a long time. It's very nice to it's just very nice from them.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's all we've got time for at the moment. Wish you and the team the very best of luck. You guys can check him out. His Twitter handle is below. Check them out. The quarterfinal matchup, June 9th, 5 p.m. PST. If you're in LA, you can grab tickets for that. Otherwise, you can find the stream. It's going to be on the LCS Twitch and YouTube channels, and you can stay connected. All the information is at the end of the video. But thank you again, Eain, so much for taking the time and sharing some of your story. And looking forward to seeing how far you and Maryville are going to be able to climb this season and in the future days coming.